Alrighty, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. People are going to continue to join, but I'm just going to get a little bit of housekeeping out of the way and some introductions. So for starters, my name is Adin Henderson. I am a current senior at BC. I'm studying environmental studies within the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences. I use he, him, his pronouns. I'm actually from right here in Newton, Massachusetts, so very local. First and foremost, I'd like to mention that this session is going to be recorded, and so if you joined late or you want to review any answers, all of these recordings are going to be available on the Discover Boston College page, which is the same website that you use to sign up for this event. Additionally, I just want to take a second to acknowledge the difficulty of navigating the college admission process, especially during a global pandemic. So I personally, and I'm sure all the panelists here, hope that you're in great health and are staying safe out there. So for the purposes of today's panel, it's going to be whatever you guys want to make it. And so if you look at the bottom of the Zoom, you will see that the chat is disabled, but there is a Q&A box. And basically this session is what you want to make of it. So any questions that you have about BC or the student experience, you can start tossing them in there now. We have some lovely admissions counselors working behind the scenes to answer some of your questions, and we'll also be answering some of them live. So don't be shy. You can always feel free to put multiple questions, put one question, whatever is best for you. But as you can see, I'm also joined by 3 fellow students and a faculty member to talk about the AHANA experience on campus. And so before I hand it off to them, I just want to talk about quickly, what does AHANA mean? And at Boston College, we use the acronym AHANA, or sometimes AHANA Plus, is like an umbrella acronym for students of color on campus. So it stands for African, Hispanic, Asian, and Native American. And then the plus is to include all other identities who may identify as being people of color, students of color, that is not directly covered under the African, Hispanic, Asian, Native American acronym. But without further ado, I would like to hand it over to the panelists so they can tell you a little bit about themselves, and we can definitely get the show on the road.
Thank you, Adin. So good night, everybody. My name is Armani Mitchell. I'm a junior here at BC studying applied psychology in our Lynch School of Education and Human Development. Also have a minor in marketing in the Carroll School of Management. And I'd love to, also I'm from the Bronx, New York. And I'd love to share a formative experience I've had at BC thus far, which was working for the summer student admissions program. So every summer, BC hires about 18 students to conduct their panels and tours throughout the summer. So I did that last summer, and I believe we had about 30,000 visitors, so prospective students and their families. And one thing I could definitely say about that is that it was very fulfilling and educating me on a lot of aspects of BC. But my favorite part of it was definitely the relationship building that came with it. So keep in mind, I was able to meet 17 other students who all had very different experiences at BC. We were all very involved on campus. So just being able to learn about the BC experience from their perspective and their interests was an amazing experience for me, because it really opened up my eyes to other things that are occurring on campus that are directly out of my view. It also allowed me to build and strengthen my relationships with our admissions counselors here. One thing that's pretty unique about BC is that our admissions counselors don't just disappear once you say yes to Boston College. But it's not too I guess it's not too rare to hear from them or see them on campus within your 4 years here. And so I was really appreciative of the opportunity to be able to just spend the summer with them and have guidance and mentorship from them. Lastly, just meeting with people like you. Being able to speak with prospective students and their families was also a great experience for me. Just speaking on my knowledge on BC and also just from my experiences as well. So it was definitely a very fulfilling experience. And I would definitely say the more time that passes from that experience, the more grateful I am for it.
Hi, my name is Winnie. I'm a senior at BC. I study biology, and I have 2 minors, one in medical humanities and one in faith, peace, and justice. They're both interdisciplinary minors, which I can take classes in all of the different departments. Some of the things that I'm involved with on campus include I've been on as an e-board member for the First Generation Club for the past several years. I'm also involved in student admissions programs. And then while I don't hold a leadership position, I am quite involved in a lot of their cultural clubs on campus. A lot of the students of color are quite involved in those. Outside of that, I have been in a biology research lab for the past 2 years, and I hold a off-campus hospital job. So that's just some of the things that I have been able to get involved with during my time here.
Thank you, Winnie. Hi, everyone. My name is Monica Sanchez. I am a senior in the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences, studying history and political science from Elizabeth, New Jersey. And the one thing I would like to talk about is, which is my favorite part about BC, the Organization of Latin American Affairs. So as of right now, I'm one of the co-presidents. And this is very important to me because coming to BC, I came from a background that was very, like, everyone was Hispanic, everyone was Latinx. So coming to BC was a big culture shock for me. And joining that club really, you know, gave me that family, like everyone says, like, it's very cliche, like a home away from home, but it was really that for me. I met a lot of mentors that helped me get through my first year on campus, and I loved it so much that I stayed every year, and now I'm the president. So as Winnie said, cultural clubs are huge on campus, and it honestly helps you embrace your culture in a different way. Like, I was born in Colombia, so I had already embraced it, but now, like, through all that, I purposely have to embrace it. It's not just because my mom is telling me to do something that I'm doing it.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Thomas Wesner, and I am a professor of business law in the Carroll School of Management at Boston College. And just a quick word to you all about the Carroll School. There are three pre-professional schools: the Lynch School of Education and Human Development, the Connell School of Nursing, and the Carroll School of Management. Our liberal arts school, the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences, is the biggest school on campus. So I teach in the Carroll School, and we have about 550 students in each class. And as you heard Armani mention, a lot of students in arts and sciences will, they might be a history or communications or economics major, but they might minor in one of the business disciplines. I also am the faculty director of the Catalyst program, which is a program in management for arts and sciences students or nursing or education students to take a summer of management courses where students get where they get 9 credits in management. I'm on the Martin Luther King Scholarship Committee, which is a committee that honors the memory of Dr. King, as well as provides scholarship opportunity for AHANA students. You know, I think that maybe just to start off, as a Jesuit university, and as Boston's, you know, first Jesuit college from 1863 forward, Boston College was a school that would be focused on welcoming children of immigrants. At the time, it was only boys that were able to be admitted, but Boston College has a long history and a rich tradition of opening its arms to people from all types of backgrounds. And so we really work hard in the Carroll School and at Boston College to mentor and welcome all of you. So I'm so glad to have you all join us tonight.
Yeah, and thank you everybody for introducing yourselves, and thank you to those of you who are starting to put some questions in the Q&A. We're gonna go ahead and get started answering some of them. And so the first question that I was wondering if these panelists could talk about is, to you, what makes BC so special?
I'm sure we can answer it all great ways, and we're all waiting to say, and we probably will say the same thing. I would say about BC is definitely the people. And I'm going to sound cliche this whole time, but what I'm saying, I really do mean it. When you're struggling with things at BC, you always have people to count on, especially staff. Like, professors are great. You can go to office hours and, you know, they will really help you if you try your best. But I think it's more of like staff, like administrators, like people from the admissions office, people in different jobs, like even the dining hall staff. Like, they're there to listen out to you, to whatever you have to say. So I definitely would say that. And also the community we built in AHANA. Like, here, we're very, very close. Everyone really knows each other. You know, if something's happening, everyone's there to help you out. So that's what I would say on my end.
I just wanted to jump on that. I also was waiting because I didn't want my answer to sound cliche. I remember my freshman year, I think when I talked to a lot of my high school friends, I just couldn't really put into words like the way that the seniors and upperclassmen made me feel, especially within the culture clubs. Like there are so many family structures and mentorship programs that like when I first got onto campus, during the first week on Friday, there was a student involvement fair where like all the tables, all of the clubs are lined up at tables on Stokes lawn, and literally all of the upperclassmen are like trying to pull you in and like make you sign up and get involved. And a bunch of the seniors are always trying to like reach out to you, cook for you, make food, see how you're doing, and just like that community. Like I just could not believe that like these strangers wanted to spend time and get to know me, who was like this random freshman. So like definitely the upperclassmen and like the people just caring about like how you are is what made me feel like this is my home and I belonged here.
Yeah, I don't want to sound redundant. That was definitely going to be my favorite thing about BC as well. I'll give you my second favorite thing, which is definitely the missions and values of our institution. One thing that's really, so I'll be honest with you guys, coming to BC, I had no idea what a Jesuit university was and what that meant for my education. So just one of those things I kind of figured out along the way here. But especially as I got more acclimated to campus and I just started being more intentional in understanding my education, I could definitely say that going to a Jesuit institution is very different than any other like public or private institution that you'd be going to, just in terms of the missions and values. So like they're a lot more intentional with the things that they stand behind, and they try to make sure that it's implemented into our academic lives and social lives as well. So just to give you guys an example, I participated in the Pulse program last year. So one of the Jesuit missions are just being men and women for others. So BC definitely does their best to make sure that our students have those opportunities to do service. So last year I did Pulse, which fulfilled my philosophy and theology requirement. So I was in class about 3 times a week, learning about philosophy and theology. But I was also able to go into the inner city of Boston, Jamaica Plains specifically, and do service there, tutoring young men of color. So that was a very fulfilling experience, and I was grateful to have that opportunity through our school and just seeing how our mission connects with the real world.
Maybe I could add a comment after in relating to Armani and Monica and Winnie. I love the people that I work with, my colleagues, the leadership of the school, and I love our students, right? Our students are earnest and hardworking, and they all have strong records from their high schools, and really they're givers. And as Armani alluded to, a motto that we use at Boston College and in Jesuit education is that, we are to be, men and women with and for others, right? That the central idea that animates the mission is that our education is not just for ourselves, that it really is designed to be used for the betterment of others, and so that we can become advocates for others who are needy and living on the margins. And that's a unique and very special and important message. And we do, as Armani said, we put our money where our mouth is. We provide students with a ton of opportunities to serve in the communities around Boston on spring break, on the summertime. And so students can really learn about themselves in communities that are in great need. And so I think that's something that's unique and fascinating and central to our mission. And I just love it.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. So the next question we're going to address is just if a few of you can talk about any feelings of imposter syndrome that may have been present freshman year. And I'll just add personally, maybe some of the resources that are present on campus that have helped you guys work through that and overcome it.
I think for a lot of BC students anyways, like we come from a high school in which we excelled, where we always were like top of our class, like got the best grades. So like for me coming into freshman year, that was the first time I ever got like an F on something. And I felt like I really didn't belong. Like maybe it was a fluke that I got in. Just like especially the chemistry classes are challenging. But like for me, I was involved in the Gateway for the Sciences program, which is for like people that are interested in the sciences like biology, chemistry, that are like minority students or first generation students. And so we have like specific staff members or like professors that are like we get pretty close with. We have discussions that are like 20 to 30 people. So I formed a really good connection with my chemistry professor. So like during that time in which I was doing like quite poorly in his class, like I attended his office hours. I was able to get like lunch one-on-one with him, and he like really assured me that like things are challenging, but like persistence is definitely something to keep in mind. And I feel like having that one-to-one connection with my professor was something that like really encouraged me to like stick it out and keep going.
I could definitely say that was something I felt, especially freshman year, in terms of imposter syndrome. Coming to BC, like I mentioned earlier, I'm from the Bronx, New York. The Bronx and Boston College, Chestnut Hills, two very different places. So coming to BC, this was definitely the whitest environment I've been in, and caught me off guard in many ways. But one thing I can say about that is that I went through a lot of my freshman year just trying to figure out ways I fit in, figure out where I felt accepted. And just like that was a journey for me within itself. But going back to the student admissions program, one thing I definitely gained from that was also finding a lot of strength in my story and my experiences. And that was one of that was a key thing I took away from that summer experience. So I could definitely say after that summer, speaking on my experience at BC, things I've done and things I've accomplished, that feeling slowly has went away. As I just start to claim and find strength in my story. So I know like BC could feel like, it is a PWI, and oftentimes you're not always going to see like, people that look like you out walking around campus, or too many people in your classrooms, but it is a space that accepts and appreciates everyone. And I could definitely attest to that from my experiences with my different friends of different backgrounds on campus, faculty and staff here, and just like the higher ups of the institution.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. We do have a few questions regarding racism incidents and also the Black Lives Matter movement as well. And so before I pass this one off to my panelists, I actually just want to hop on it really quickly and talk about it briefly. So on campus, I'm one of the co-presidents of the Black Student Forum. And so over the summer, I've done a lot of work with upper administration and the university regarding how they want to move forward with it and things that students want to be done. And one thing that I will say that BC did really well with was listening to what the students wanted. And so BC's initial response is they rolled out this initiative called the Boston College Forum on Racial Justice, which was going to be a forum, and it's still going to be a forum led by the Boston College Law School, and as a place for Black students on campus to come forth and share their experiences and have a direct line to administration, be it the president or be it heads of programs. And so when everything was kind of ramping up over the summer, we all met presidents of Black student organizations and wanted to really consolidate our efforts. And we called for a few things, which BC met basically all. We had 3 demands. And the first one was that we wanted 2 students to be included on the Boston College Planning Committee for the Forum for Racial Justice. We wanted them to update their discriminatory harassment policy, and we wanted them to update their core program. And they kind of surpassed everything we could have hoped for. They came forth, they met all of our demands. We met with countless administrators over the summer, and it's still a work in progress, and we're still meeting with them. I know personally, I got busy with school when I moved in, and I actually had one of the vice presidents reach out to me and be like, hey, I'd like to continue our conversation. Can we get this rolling again? And they're really committed to that. I know it's kind of a long-winded answer, but I don't know if any of the other panelists would like to hop on and speak about that.
Just like a quick commentary. I think I didn't see the actual question that was asked, but I feel like there's also a lot of classes that BC offers that talks about these issues, because like sometimes it may seem like a very taboo issue to talk about, like racism, sexism, things like of that sort. But like I know right now I'm taking a class, it's called like Psychology of Prejudice and Discrimination. Also my Woman in the Body class talks about like sexism and racism. There's a freshman, I think, renewal course that talks about like the Me Too movement combined with the Black Lives Matter movement. So there's a lot of spaces, like even in the classroom, to talk about these topics where like you typically don't have the opportunity to do so.
And to add on to that, Winnie, I would say also it's a lot like what clubs do. I mean, Adin is like huge on doing things for the student body. He's very, very involved. But In every type of club, we can plan events to educate everyone and everyone become better allies on this. I know like as soon as we started our planning process for OLA, we said we need to have an event that we want to have an academic, someone that's for in the Black Lives Matter movement, intersectionality between being Afro-Latina and then Afro-Latinx and Hispanic, which we found very, very important for us to do because at the same time, it's like we can't leave everything to the school. Like we need to do something on our own as well. And also important to remember within the AHANA community, like there's many stereotypes and many prejudices that live within the AHANA community that it's our like need for us to get away from that. So that is why we're having an event like that. That's why we want to be educated on things that, you know, people that are coming from Latin America and biases that their parents put into them, like we need to check ourselves and see like where is this coming from. And I think you can take classes on it, you can be part of like events that are on it, and I think the tools are here at BC for that.
Yeah, and I'd also like to add, when these issues do occur in terms of racism, we definitely do see your Black and non-Black peers show out at BC. Like there was an incident my freshman year on campus in freshman year, so I was really interested to see how our institution, our student body especially, responded to it. And we actually had a protest, and many of my Black and non-Black peers showed out. So that's also one thing, just to know that like there are people within the community who look like me and don't look like me, who do support my life and like the movement that is occurring. So, and that is one thing I am appreciative of.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. This next question is going to be a little more specific to Winnie, but Caroline here is wondering if you can talk about what the pre-med track looks like at BC.
So there are specific classes that are already laid out by BC. We have a pre-med committee that like says like, oh, you should ideally like take these classes this year. And then in general, like a lot of like med schools look for like research on your resumes. There's a lot of like biology labs that are very open for undergrad students to join, especially since we're in the Boston like area. Like it's very easy to like find a research position like in the city. There's so many hospitals. Like we have some of the nation's like best hospitals for you to like find a clinical assistant job there, or even like work as a nursing assistant. And then when you get to the end of your pre-med like journey at BC, there is a pre-med committee. You send in an application. They'll write like one big letter for you for your application. But in general, like there are many students that are pre-med here, so like the track is pretty laid out on their website about what classes you should take and like who you should reach out to and things that you should do. There is also like many service, like medical service, service trips on BC's campus, and also like a pre-med club that you could join if you choose to do so.
Great. And we have a question here from Shakira. How would you describe the professors and says principals? I'm assuming that she means deans. Do they care about their students? And I guess I'll tag on maybe some of the mentorships that have been forged between professor and students. I know Professor Wesner is here, so we have the honor of listening to him answer. But yeah.
It's a great question. So in the Carroll School, which I'm most familiar with, but I know most students, and the students can speak better to this in Marcy, we advise groups every year of about 15 to 17 sophomores. And so we also, you know, are supposed to, and all of us do have office hours where students come in, you know, once or twice a week for a few hours at a time, where students can combine, just drop in. This year, of course, it's a little bit different with COVID. We got to limit the numbers and maybe make appointments in some cases, but we really are charged with looking out for our students and recognizing that it's not easy. We have a national and to some extent international population. So we have students coming from all over the world. Many of them feel, you know, a little homesick when they come to college. So we take it as our job to make everyone feel welcome and to create a welcoming space for all of you.
I could definitely speak to that a little bit more. So I went to a really small public school in the Bronx. My graduating class was 86 students, I believe. So probably a lot smaller than a lot of you guys on this webinar. So one thing that I was really worried about coming to college was faculty and staff relationships and what that would look like for me. Because I was able to cultivate a lot of those in my high school because my school was so small. So now coming to a school where there's literally thousands of other students, what does that look like for me? That was a really big worry for me. Um, but I could definitely say like coming into my freshman year, I was able to cultivate so many great relationships with faculty and staff. And I definitely do feel supported by them to this day, even those who I met freshman year. Just to give you an example, I was in Professor Wesner's class my fall semester of freshman year. So me and him have a great relationship. We actually caught up today as well. And even last summer when I was working for admissions, he invited me and three of my other peers to his house with his family, and they made us dinner. So I think that just shows a lot of who our faculty and staff here are at BC. They truly do care about our students, not only in the classroom, but outside as well.
Yeah, thank you. Next question. So Emily asked, besides the discussions on racism that we were talking about, what else has BC done to support AHANA students on campus? So I briefly, in typing my answer to her, talked about the BAIC, but I was wondering if you guys can go into a little more depth about other resources and centers and how they've affected your experience on Boston College campus.
One resource I could speak to is Montserrat. So Montserrat is a resource for our low income students on campus, and obviously those low income students and like POC are two different things. But there is that correlation on campus. They've been a great resource to me where they've been able to help support me financially in certain aspects of my student experience here at BC. So like this semester, for example, they were able to give me a couple of my textbooks, which was a great help. They also have funded some of the trips that I've led or went on within the last year or two. So that's been also they've been of great assistance to me.
Yeah, and to that, I can also say mentorship programs too, because a lot of mentorship programs at BC are like specifically for AHANA students. So right now, I'm leading the Compass Mentorship Program, which comes out of the first year experience office. And I was actually a mentee my freshman year, and I loved it so much that I had to be a mentor this year. And it's a pretty cool thing. It's only like 6 students and a mentor. The mentors were usually seniors or juniors, and we just get together once a week and just talk about how things are going, which I think is very cool because it's, especially now, I think my group, I hope they're enjoying it, but they don't get to socialize as much as they would if, Corona wasn't happening. So it was really cool just like getting together, and like there was people from Newton, people from Upper, everyone's in different majors. And that really helps because at least my freshman year, when I was hearing all these mentors talk about all my mentors, how it was, and like sometimes I felt crazy. Like I felt crazy with the culture shock, but knowing that like seniors went through it their freshman year and they got through it and they're in very good positions at school just made me feel more secure about myself. So I think mentorship programs are a great way for AHANA students.
Cool. So if nobody else has anything else to add, I'm not sure if anybody on the panel can answer this. If not, I can definitely hop on it. But I was wondering if anybody would be able to talk about the pre-law track.
So I'm actually studying for the LSAT right now. So that is where I'm going. It's not as clear as the med one, I would say, as the pre-med one, or maybe I'm just not that clear about it. But what I did my freshman year, there's freshman topic seminars. So right away, I knew I wanted to go to law school. So I took one of those seminars, and it was, I think, law and justice and society. It was very chill. We got together like once a week. It ended early in November. And the professor, he knows a lot about law. So it was great taking that. And then from there, he just became my advisor for the rest of the year, for the rest of my time at BC. So he's been great with that. And also there's so many classes at BC that you can take. Like I took business law as well my freshman year. I am not in CSUM at all. But I thought, maybe let's start thinking about law right there. So I did that, and I loved it. I found a different way to think about law, because at first I was just like, oh, it's just going to be immigration law that I care about. But then business law was also a very cool way to look to it. And there's also in the Career Center, there's people that you can specifically talk to about like your pre-law track, and also getting internships for that will help you look better for law schools. Yeah.
Yeah, and also just to echo a little bit of what Monica was saying, one of the cool things about the pre-law concentration is that you can have a pre-law concentration regardless of the major that you are in. And so basically what BC does is they will provide you with the resources you need to help prepare you for law school. But beyond that, like there's not a set requirement for what you need to take. There's not a set field that you need to be in, which is really great, because I think one of the things about law is that it's everywhere. Like there can be medical law. Like I'm personally studying to pursue environmental law. I'm sure Monica's studying to do something different. And so they realized that, and they made a program where regardless of where you are at BC, you can pursue law if that's what you want to do.
If I could add just one quick item to that, I'm probably in this fall season writing about, between 15 and 20 law school recommendations. So because business law is a core requirement in the Carroll School. And then arts and sciences, there's, under the American Studies major, there's a lot of law courses offered. We have a lot of interest in law. Our university places, we're among the highest group of, peer schools placing graduates in law schools. And our students, of course, do well. And we have them all over the place. We also have a pre-law society called the Bellarmine Law Society. And we have a journal, a pre-law school review for students to submit for publication onto that. And that's a very popular outlet for students who want to become legal scholars as undergraduates.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Before I move on to the next question, I see a little bit of confusion about the acronym AHANA. And so I just wanted to clarify that really quickly before we moved on. And so AHANA technically is not like an organization on campus. It's more of a term that BC uses to apply to students of color, and that way they can, students of color can have access to multiple programs across campus. So under the name of AHANA organizations, there's countless resources. So like I was mentioning earlier, there's the Bowman AHANA Intercultural Center, and then there's student organizations that are AHANA organizations that would be anywhere from the Korean Student Association to OLA, like Monica was saying, to Black Student Forum, to different dance groups. And so it's more of an umbrella term that we use on this campus to apply to other things. Yeah. And then another question that I saw, this one might be a little more for Armani, but first, it's kind of a two-part question, but first, what piece of advice would you give to an incoming AHANA student? And second, can anybody speak on the School of Education?
So I mean, I could talk a little bit about like the School of Education. So I might burst your bubble a little bit, but I'm not actually planning on going down the education route. I just like the major a lot. But just to speak on the three majors that they have within the School of Education, they have primary education, which is like elementary school ed, secondary education, and then applied psychology. And then within the applied psychology major, there are three concentrations. So I believe one is counseling, one is social work, and the other is on the HR track. So I'm on the HR track. So I can't necessarily speak on if you are planning on being a teacher one day, I can't necessarily speak on that aspect of it because I'm not very involved on that side. But just in terms of what's going on there, the classes are really interesting. They have a lot of faculty and staff support there that can connect you with resources. I know I also have a lot of friends who are in the School of Education are actively pursuing their masters. So they provide a lot of resources for our students if that is the route that you see yourself going on, to kind of prepare you for that. I know you could also take classes within your senior year that could help you build credits for grad school during your undergrad experience, if that helps.
Yeah, and also just to add on, I know I personally am in the College of Arts and Sciences, but something that's really great about the BC School of Education is that they have what's called a practicum that you'll be doing, where when you're an upperclassman, I believe, Armani, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's your senior year, you are actually placed in a school in the Boston area and you will be doing teaching. So working hands-on. And so it basically prepares you to be in the classroom. And when you graduate, you will already have hands-on experience with teaching in the field that you're trying to go into, which is really great.
Yep. Yeah, if you're doing that primary or secondary education major, they help you out with that. And I believe they also, if you're doing primary, secondary education, they also kind of expect you to pick up another major with that as well. So for example, if you want to be a math teacher, you could be a primary, like you could do primary education, but they'll also expect you kind of to double major within math as well, just to give you that balance.
Awesome. Another question is, how will the college being a Jesuit school affect students who are not religious?
I personally am Catholic, but a lot of my friends aren't. So like, I think the school does a really good job in terms of like, if you want the religious aspect, then you can go and find it. There are several like Christian / Catholic like clubs and organizations. There are like a few churches or like places where you can gather for mass, or if you have a different religion, there's also the multi-faith area. But also, if you are not religious, then there is no like pushing religion down your throat or anything. A lot of my friends, like I said, are not religious. They don't attend anything. So like, I feel like there definitely is no pressure. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, like, does anyone want to go to church with me? And nobody says anything, because like it's okay to have people with like very different religions or like no religion at all. Well, that helped. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can also probably provide a little insight to this myself. I personally am Jewish, and I'm a senior on campus, and I never have once felt like ostracized or pressure to like attend a mass or to kind of embrace Catholicism or anything. And it's more of the environment where if you want it, it's there. You can go to a mass, you can go on these retreats that are religiously oriented. Well, and there also are retreats that are not religiously oriented, but it's really there for you to make what you want of it. And I know Winnie also talked about the multi-faith chapel, and so that's a resource that campus ministry provides for non-Catholic identifying students to pursue their faith fully, and they fund everything. So I know specifically like the Muslim Student Association has a chaplain that works with them, and they worship in the multi-faith chapel. There is a Jewish student organization that also worships in the multi-faith chapel, and so there's really resources for everybody to make religion a part of their experience if they want to, and it doesn't have to be if they do not want it to be.
I also feel like it's important to know like BC is a place that is accepting of all religions, all identities. But when you are committing to be a student here, you should know that you're also signing up to be shaped by like the missions and values that come along with the Jesuit experience. So obviously you don't have to be Catholic to go to a school like BC, but you know, we did talk about a little bit of the values are behind the school, like being a man and woman for others, so service, talking about just loving others, cure personalis is another one, which is education of the whole person. So like these things are roped in into our educational experiences, into some of our social experiences, clubs and events and organizations. So if you could align with those, like that value, even outside of a religious aspect, but just more so on the deeper meaning of what these things are, I think BC could be a place for you.
Cool. Another question: what does the typical Boston College student do for fun? What traditions, events, activities do you usually look forward to?
There's a lot of fun things to do at BC, I would say. There's like so many traditions. First thing that comes to mind, especially when it comes to AHANA, is Showdown. So we don't have a Greek life here, which I love. And if you do want to have a Greek life, it's totally fine, because at BC, I'm not saying clubs function like a Greek life, but they do give you that feeling of having those group of people. In freshman year, you're trying to get into them. So yeah, and so dance teams are huge on BC's campus, and especially the AHANA dance teams. Two of my roommates, one is on the all girls step team, FIST, and then the other one used to be on the African dance team, PA2, and they're huge on campus. And for Showdown, that happens on the second semester in the big stadium. All the teams compete against each other. Like, it was so fun. I remember making like huge heads of them, and we're just like cheering on for them. I would say that one, and I would also say the Christmas tree lighting. I'm not saying right, but that one's really cool too. Everyone gathers together. All the a cappella groups are doing their thing. There's hot chocolate, and it's just really cute. A way to celebrate something, even if you're far from home. When like your family's putting up the Christmas tree, BC's doing it as well.
school, but also being your like stereotypical like college experience in terms of like we're a T ride away from the city, so like going to restaurants or like going to like concerts, anything that the city can offer, like we have. But then we also have an actual campus, we have a D1 football team, so like tailgating and just like going to the football game on like a Saturday afternoon is a very big thing at BC. We have the bean pot, so like the competition with BU hockey is like something that a lot of students like to go to. So I think like the perfect balance between like a city, but then like an actual college campus in which like you do your stereotypical like American like college things is like pretty much like how I describe BC.
Yeah, Winnie kind of touched on like the sports as well. One of my favorite sporting events that we have every year is the Wells Crowler Red Bandana game. So Wells Crowler is a BC alum who actually passed away in the 9/11 attack. He actually like went back in the building to save people, and he passed while doing that. So every year BC acknowledges him for his work and his contributions through the Red Bandana game. I believe he was known for wearing a bandana because I believe his dad wore a blue one. Like that was like his dad's thing, and like with that being his son, him wanting to be like his dad, his father gave him a red bandana. So every day we acknowledge that. So the Red Bandana game is probably like one of our biggest football games where we just acknowledge that. So pretty great experience.
Awesome. Matthew was wondering, how easy is it to take classes in two different schools? I.e., my career goals fall between two different schools, so I'm just trying to decide which one to apply to. Yeah.
Classes between like two different schools, like I'm in the arts and science, but I have taken last semester and this semester like classes in the nursing school. I also know a lot of my friends have an econ major, and then BC a few years ago just introduced CSOM business minors, so a lot of them have like a econ major and a finance or marketing like minor. I know a lot of people that do like a Lynch major and then like a MCAS arts and science like minor. So it's definitely flexible, like in terms of like you can pick and choose classes that interest you.
The minors that are offered in the Carroll School are extremely popular. And I think we underestimated how many students at BC would want to minor in the business school. And so I don't actually know the number, but I know it's several hundred, if not a couple thousand that are minoring in the Carroll School of Management. So I think the courses, and Carroll School students take Lynch School of Ed courses frequently. Armani took that route, right, Armani? And it's easy to take courses in other schools, other than really nursing, which I think maybe there are some restrictions there. But
yeah, you could literally walk into the CSOM office and tell them I want to declare a minor, and it's there, like nothing to it.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome, thank you, everybody. Somebody would like Monica to talk about fists and beats.
Sure. So I can talk definitely about fists. I'm like the biggest fangirl because I have no ability to dance. So I'm always watching them. So yeah, they are and my roommate's right there. So I hope she doesn't hear me representing her club, but I'll make her proud. So yeah, FIST is the all-girls step team. They're pretty cool. They're all about like sisterhood. Like they're very, very tight. And like, for example, my roommate, she never stepped before coming to BC. And right away, like she did the audition process and she really, really enjoyed it. And then once again, everything at BC is all about like mentors. So all the upperclassmen, yeah, they're like kind of a little hard at first because obviously they want the team to do great. But at the end of the day, like they do become a great community and they do like really cool steps. Like for Showdown 2 years ago, they did like a whole Barbie theme and they all dress like Barbies and they wear their wigs and they step really well. I actually think they got second place that year. And I'm sure you asked about beats, which I believe that's the a cappella group, but maybe someone can talk more about that. A cappella group is great. For Ola, we had a culture show and it wasn't beats, but it was the common tones, which are also an a cappella group at BC. And they actually, Ola, we really just wanted to have a bunch of teams and clubs from different aspects of BC come to our event. So they came and they did like Demi Lovato and a cappella, which was really cool.
Yeah, and BEAT stands for Black Experience in America Through Song. It was a group that was originally started, I believe, either through United Front or Black Student Forum, and has since branched off and become its own independent organization. But it is one of the many, like I'd say dozens of a cappella opportunities that's available on campus. Yeah, so feel free to keep the questions rolling in. We have a couple left. I also have a couple prepared. But do you guys have a rough estimate of how many people of color are usually in your classes?
I'm a lot into I am in a lot of political science classes, and there's some classes that there could be a good like 5 students of color. But I have been in classes that it's only like me and someone else, but it's like, don't find that even weird. Like, it's very normal. And at first when I came to BC, I was like, that's really weird, because in my school, everyone looked like me back at home. But then like, I remember an upperclassman told me like, a lot of the powerful places in the world right now are going to be people that are not of color. So that can like really stop you from going somewhere, which is so true. And also the good thing about it is that people of color would just attract each other, or at least in my experience, like the moment you see someone else of color in a class, you just right away, you like sit together and, you know, that's your buddy for the rest of the school year. So yeah, that's just on my end. I don't know about other majors.
For me, it really depends on what kind of class it is. Like for my science classes, there were definitely more people of color in the class. My freshman year, like lit core class, was me and one other Korean person. And then I took a class regarding like Asian history, and like a lot of people were like people of color. So it really depends on what kind of classes you're taking, for sure.
Cool. Thank you, everybody. Moving on to another question. Have you guys ever experienced racism at Boston College? And if so, how were you able to overcome these encounters? I also would like to add, if Professor Wesner would like to talk about your role as an administrator who's supporting students of color, and maybe some of the initiatives that are also present on campus.
Would you like me to go first, or do you want the students to answer that as the first question?
Go for it. Go for it. You can hop on it.
And so as far as the faculty, I alluded to it earlier, but one of the things we try and do as a university is promote, being on the lookout for students that might be new to the college classroom, that might be first gen, that might be far from home. And so we have we try and create, this is university-wide, not just on the Carroll School of Management. We really try and provide a warm and welcoming atmosphere to get to know students, to get to know their names, to invite them to office hours. On our syllabus, where many of us include what Armani alluded to earlier, which is the Montserrat Coalition. The Montserrat program was started, I think, maybe about 9 or 10 years ago. And it's a program designed to help students who can't afford the full cost of attendance at college, that want to have tickets to games, that want to be able to buy dress clothes for interviews, and to support students with the purchase of books and things like that. We reach out to students who are Montserrat in our classes and say, come to see us, come meet us, and then through other programs like the Martin Luther King, the AHANA programming that's on campus. Our deans ask us to be active and to be attentive, and to, as Marnie also alluded to earlier, to focus on cura personalis, which is a Jesuit priority, to care of the person, right? And to really get to know your students. So we definitely try and do that. In the Carroll School of Management, we have a program called Portico, which is kind of the gateway or the entranceway in. And all students have a class of about 18, maybe 20. And their professor is also their first year advisor. who advises them the whole year, and they have to go see them for office hours. They seek advice from them. They choose their courses with that person, and it's really kind of a special program to make our students feel welcome.
Well, in the interest of time, I'm just going to provide a student answer to this, and then we're going to move to our one last question before we wrap up for the night. And so personally, I have not experienced direct racism at Boston College, but there have been incidents that have happened on campus. And what I will say about that is that BC has a ton of resources to addressing those. In terms of, I know I mentioned earlier, there's a discriminatory harassment policy where if something happens, BC has a streamlined way of making sure that it's dealt with. And that starts with, they have a bias-related incident reporting system right on your campus portal. So if you feel like you've been the victim or a friend feels like they have been the victim of a bias-related incident, they can report that anonymously or not anonymously on the BC portal, and it will be dealt with from there. Again, what I will say is that while there have been incidents of racism on campus, it is definitely not representative of the student body. During my 3 previous years on campus, when one person has committed an act of hate, I'd say thousands of students would turn out to oppose it. Like without fail, every time there is some sort of bias-related incident, there are 1,000 people lining the quad, making people know that like BC is not the place that's going to be accepting of that. And I think that also is it's really nice to see a lot of people showing out. So for the last question, everybody can answer this. I know Professor Wesner may have a different answer to this because he's a faculty member, but what ultimately led you to choose Boston College, and was being an AHANA student a factor in your decision?
Yeah, I think as a senior, I have been reflecting a lot on this, especially trying to pick law schools now, like what's going to make me go there. Before I came to BC, I had no idea what the school was at all. I applied because my roommate said Boston's nice and the campus pretty. So I was like, okay, let me apply. So I did. And I was set on going to another school. And then I came for AHANA weekend, and I heard a speech from a quadruple eagle, so someone that had graduated from 4 different parts of BC. And what he said was that, BC is a very white campus, but we need to bring more people of color here to make the difference we want to see in the school. Like, no matter how much we want to judge it and say, oh my God, there's so many white people here, why is there no more Black, Hispanic, Asians? It's because people don't come here. So come here and make that difference. And he had actually graduated, I believe, early in the 80s. So to him, he kept saying, like, you guys are our dream. Like, seeing all of you people applying is what we want, because we want more people. We want this campus to be better because it's already a great campus. And with more AHANA students, it will be better. So right away, I knew I want to be part of something like that. And I knew if I could help any place in higher education represent what the world and the United States actually looks like, I was going to do that on my end. So that's why I decided to come here.
More on AHANA weekend, that was also the main reason why I came here. So it typically takes place in April. It might look different this year because it did last year because of the pandemic, but typically we invite about 100 plus accepted students. We match them up with current BC students as your host. You stay the weekend here, you attend classes on Monday. During the weekend, you explore all the different organizations that BC has to offer. You meet with professors and meet with the admission counselors just to see what it is like to be a HANA student at on BC's campus. During AHANA weekend, I found out a lot of things that I loved about the school, but I also learned about the Gateway program for the first time. So typically just a quick rundown, because I know someone else had a question about it. General chemistry and bio classes, your first year for any school you go to, will be a huge lecture hall, which is very intimidating for a freshman. For the Gateway program, they separated us. It was a 30-person general chemistry class, which was amazing. And then for our bio class, we took it with the rest of the big lecture hall, but we had a 30-person discussion class with the professor one-to-one. I've never heard of anything like that at any other school. This was a program designed especially for AHANA students and first-gen students, because the dropout rate for pre-med track or just the sciences are a lot higher for AHANA and first-gen students. And the fact that BC put this much effort into providing for their students, I was so intrigued, and I came here particularly for that program?
For me at least, I don't want to get too sad because I know Howard Singer is on this call as well. And he's heard the story a couple times. But going to BC, it was never really, I'll be honest with you guys, it wasn't a school that was on my radar all 4 years of high school. Didn't know too much about it, but I did apply and did end up getting in. So I was actually deciding between BC and another school within the Boston area, honestly leaning towards that school at the time. So my mom and I came to visit campus for like a weekend. I didn't go to AHANA weekend, so that was also an experience I missed out on, and I wish I did. High school senior me wasn't paying attention to emails. But with that being said, though, I remember I was in an Uber on my way to BC's campus just to like walk around, just take it all in. Randomly, I got an email from Howard Singer like, "Hey Armani, I know you haven't made a decision on BC yet, but if you'd like to hop on a call one day, we could talk about it." So I emailed him right back. I'm like, "Actually, I'm in an Uber on my way to campus right now, so if you want to have this conversation in person, I'll be happy to." And he did. He dropped everything he was doing, and then him, my mom, and I, we sat in one of the conference rooms in Devlin Hall, which is the admissions office, for almost 2 hours talking about my experiences, what I want to do, who I want to be, things I've accomplished in high school. And from that point on, I knew I was very supported coming into BC, and I had faculty and staff that was going to look out for me, and he definitely set the tone, and that's definitely been the theme of my experience here within these last couple years. So I definitely made the right call by choosing here, and that it's only gotten better as I've gone as I went up in years.
Awesome. So thank you, everybody. Just I have a few closing remarks, and then we can have everybody be on their way. So first and foremost, I'd like to thank all of you guys for taking your time to hop on this session, ask your questions. I hope that all the panelists, I'm going to put my contact information in the chat, and all the panelists will follow suit. You can definitely feel free to reach out to me, find me on social media. I'd be more than happy to talk about Boston College or answer any questions that anybody would have about the experience. I would like to say this event is actually part of our open house series, which can all be found and signed up for on the BC Admission website, which is bc.edu/admissions. In addition to that, the student admissions program does programming Monday through Friday every week. So if you want to see a virtual tour of campus, if you want to attend a virtual student panel again to maybe get some more questions answered, those are available, and they can also be signed up for online. And finally, on the 13th of October at 8 p.m., there's going to be a special open house session that's going to be dedicated specifically to answering application questions. So this it's going to be members of the Boston College Board of Admissions. So student admissions counselors will be there to answer your questions. There'll be maybe more logistical about actually the act of applying to Boston College. And that'll definitely help clear those things up. But that's all from me. That's all from the rest of the panelists. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night, and thank you for taking the time to attend our session.